everybody, my name is In Jin Moon and welcome to iHome Church. For those of you joining us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our email list. First of all, I need to apologize for my voice. I'm recovering from a bad cold and it's not up to full capacity, but I hope you can bear with me. I wanted to mention that our last webinar with Dr. Robert Epstein was an extraordinary one in that many of you participated in that webinar, and I want to thank you for that. You know, as we kind of share the different tools and tips that can help all of us in different relationships that we have with colleagues, family, and friends, and all the wonderful people in our lives. This is really our effort and our hope and our prayer that we don't have to go on reinventing the wheel all the time. There is a lot of great collective wisdom that are out there, and if we use it wisely, it can make us better unificationists, better men and women of God. I know that several of you have voiced your concerns, basically saying, well, all we need to do is pray and all we need is to go to Cheongbyung and all our problems will be solved. And, from my standpoint, leaving it all up to God and leaving it all up to prayer is wonderful. It's a great, great foundation. But as my father has taught, God has given us and has prepared 95% of all that we need to become incredible men and women of God. But that last 5% responsibility is up to us. And so I take that very, very seriously. And so when I think about my family, we have one, I'm a proud unificationist. We have our core belief systems, we read the divine principle, we pray all the time. But there are things that professionals, people who have dedicated their lives to different aspects of human relationship that can help us a great deal. And I know that many people in different religious communities are somewhat apprehensive about utilizing these quote-unquote external tools and tips because they think all they need to come from their community. But really, when we strive towards creating this worldwide community, we gotta stop thinking of ourselves as we versus them. We need to start thinking of ourselves as a family. And I think for many, many years, many hundreds of years, any good, anybody that was had some kind of a remedy or a healing or outside of the church has been very, very much discouraged within the church, and sometimes labeled as false gods, and sometimes encouraged to not associate ourselves with certain professionals. Even the medical history, when you look at it, is fraught with all of these misunderstandings and misconceptions. And for many, many years, the medical science has been very much unappreciated in terms of religious communities, in terms of people seeking holistic healing. But in my experience, holistic healing together with the expertise of the medical profession can sometimes yield the most effective result. And so our effort at reaching out and inviting these professionals or these distinguished scholars to really come and share their insights and to share their tools and tips to help us become better women and men of God is just that. They can give us a different way of looking at it, a different perspective on approaching the same problem that we've been working on for years. But sometimes it just takes a fresh perspective. And so that's what it's all about. But I very much encourage you to check out the work of Dr. Robert Epstein, and in particular his book called Teen 2.0. It's a really profound and a landmark book and a radical plan of sorts that he recommends to best deal with this thing called adolescence. And he explains that this term adolescence is is a product or something that the modern world created. And unlike the olden days where children grew up and together with their families, many times pre-industrial age in agrarian societies, they worked side by side with their parents, and they became kind of like an apprentice to the work that their parents are doing. So there was no period specifically that distinguished a child from an adult, or what we have come to know as teenagers or adolescence, time of adolescence. And he claims that in order for us to really try to address many of the youth problems or the concepts that we have as young people being reckless, young people being rebellious, young people being angry, young people just being irresponsible, is an assumption that needs to be revisited. And so his work is an incredibly compelling, he makes an incredibly compelling argument to reassess our own preconceived understanding of what adolescence is all about, and basically saying that this is something that was created because of the Industrial Revolution. There were certain things that took place. Industrial Revolution, you had certainly almost overnight, you had all these people in cities, all these people having children. What do you do with this new up-and-coming lower middle class with hundreds and hundreds of children? And so with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, you have the introduction of compulsory education, and then you have the beginnings of a woman's movement, and all of these things is progress in terms of taking our world from an agrarian society to a modern world. And especially the women's movement, whenever you have women coming to the forefront, their main concerns the livelihood of childhood or children. And so out of the well-meaning concerns of their heart, women's movements were right there up in front to protect the children, fighting against child abuse and things like that. But over the years, it's been 100 years since then, we are still saddled with the same kind of laws that were given birth to 100 years ago. And our young people are saddled with 10 times more restrictions than adults legally, and twice as many restrictions as felons or Marines for that matter. So our young people are angry, rebellious, and frustrated, in the words of Dr. Epstein, because of all of these restrictions that keep them in the state of this, what he calls the artificial extension of childhood. We treat them like children, we feel like we have to overly protect them, and anybody that has children knows that the more restrictions that you put on a child, the more angry they will get, the more bitter they will get, the more they will fight you. And his advice to really battling these problems and solving these problems is to introduce, first of all, abolish this concept of teenagers and stop labeling the young people as reckless and rebellious and angry, and start introducing meaningful responsibility. And I find that incredibly uplifting, and because it affords many of the parents, I know a lot of different friends that I have, they're dealing with this same situation, and they want to see hope. They want to find a way to somehow make their lives better in the context of their family, in particular in relation to their kids. And what he is basically saying is, look, our children are dealing with all of these restrictions, all of these things they cannot do. But we as parents have not really given them a meaningful responsibility that they can really invest their life in, with not just responsibility, but with the authority that is needed to carry out the responsibility. Many times, out of the goodness of our heart, even if we feel like we have to make this big leap of faith, we want to afford our children certain responsibility. But many times we don't give them the authority to carry it out. For instance, perhaps mommy and daddy is going out for an evening of wonderful date night, once a month or something. And they ask their 13-year-old daughter to please look after their 2-year-old child. And the parents will say, this is a really important job. This is a chance for you to really take care of your younger sibling. And so you will be responsible for the child. But then the father or the mother says, but if you're going to do anything, give us a call before you do it. In other words, the meaningful responsibility of an older sister taking care of a younger sibling is given. But the authority or the decision or the 5% responsibility that the child needs to feel that they can own, that they can utilize, that they can exercise was not given. So it's kind of like, I give you the responsibility, but you don't have the authority. And therefore, it's kind of a recipe for certain failures, or both sides feeling very discontented and very unhappy. And so that's what Dr. Epstein is really kind of asking us to do as parents. Are we giving the youth of our world meaningful responsibility with the authority to carry it out? And, when I was reading his book, it's a fantastic book. Please read it. Anybody that is working with youth, teachers, youth ministers, pastors, different people in corporations, and because the advent of the internet and the technology savvy of our young people, the new workforce that is coming onto the scene is getting younger and younger. So anybody that is dealing with young people, this is a must read. Because again, our true Father has spoken so much about the importance of 5% responsibility. But many times we as parents, we want to kind of help our children own their 5% responsibility, or kind of rise up to the level of saying, yes, I will be responsible for our life, and I will have a meaningful life and a meaningful career and a meaningful relationship with my family and with my spouse. But many times the authority that is needed to carry out the responsibility is not given. And when I think about the role of religion in particular, many times expressed through this institution that we call the church, or the church-wide community, the vision that I have of our relationship with God is God pushing a baby pram, a baby stroller, like one of those English nanny strollers. And God is the one pushing the pram. And here we are, 50, 60, 70 years old, sitting there in the pram with a bonnet and with a milk bottle, sucking on the bottle. Many times our relationship with God is God doing all the work. God is the one pushing us. God is the one dressing us. God is the one feeding us. And all we're doing is sitting there and just loving every minute of it. Well, if I were to draw a picture of a 60-year-old man sitting in a baby pram with God pushing the cart, with a bonnet and a milk bottle, I'm sure anybody looking at that picture will laugh out loud. But in reality, many of our relationship with God or our Heavenly Parent is just that. And God is the one that is always kind of asking us, look, you're my child, you're the most important thing in my life, you're my son and a daughter. But God is waiting for us to exercise our 5% responsibility, for us to be the one pushing, not always God. And so when I was growing up, and Father would talk to us, the children, about God. Father would talk on and on about how sometimes God is the saddest person in the whole wide universe, because everybody is asking him to do things for him. But, it's like, make us believe in you, people will say, or solve my problems. I am praying, so take all the problems of my family away. I'm going to go to Cheongpyeong and stay there for 40 years. So by the time I come back, turn my husband or turn my wife into a new person, a wonderful person. In a way, God is asked of all of these things from us, when if we really ask ourselves, what is the single most important thing that a parent wants for our child? We want them to grow up. We don't want our child to be children forever. We want our children to grow up, to be responsible. Their 5% responsibility as young adults. Invest in what they're good at, what they're passionate about. Build a wonderful family. And experience love and happiness and prosperity in their life. That's what we want. And if we understand that, then we realize that our role as children of God in this thing called a church community, or in this context of a religion that we live by, does not mean that we have to be children forever. And that's the wonderful thing about the advent of true parents. Because before true parents, you have a very clear picture in Christianity of Jesus, the shepherd, and the flock. We're kind of like sheep. We're kind of like the flock that follow Jesus everywhere. And we're very good followers. We're very obedient. Where Jesus goes, we follow. And of course, in the time of the wilderness, when we have to be absolutely unified in order to fulfill a certain providential timeline, it is essential for us to obey and to follow and to be one. If you're going into battle, you need to be one with your general. You need to be one with your platoon leader. But here we are in the age of settlement. And we have to build families, we have to build healthy societies, communities, nation and world. Then what do? Are we just going to follow this one person wherever he goes and whatever he does? And, we are just the flock to the shepherd? Well, the thing about Christianity is, because Jesus didn't have a chance to fulfill the true nature of his mission, which was to find this victorious Eve, build an incredible family. We only had this vision or this picture of the shepherd and the flock. But the great thing about the advent of true parents is that here we have a vision of a parent. And what the Messiah comes to do is to create a family. And what God and our true parents are asking us to do is to become an awesome family, or like a tribal Messiah. Be a Messiah of your own tribe. In essence, the completed picture that Christianity was lacking was this vision of religious or the holy believers not staying perennially as the child of God, but really them owning their 5% responsibility and becoming young adults that can seek the blessing and that can go on to do many, many great things. So when I look at the teachings of Father, he's very, very clear on the role of religion. He says we need religion because of the fall. The fall led Adam and Eve astray. So religion is like a repair shop. He calls it a repair shop. And that's where things are fixed so that we can go on doing what we are supposed to be doing. But many of us thinking that the repair shop is the thing, kind of become addicted to the rituals and all of these things that the repair shop affords, but is afraid to venture out and to actually own our own 5% responsibility to become our own tribal messiahs. Many of us never make that transition from a child to a young adult because we are so addicted to our church community. We are so addicted to being a child of God that we don't realize we cannot stay in the repair shop forever. If you go to a hospital, you go because you are sick, but you don't make the hospital your life, not unless you're a doctor. But most people, you go to the hospital to get better, but then you go on with your life and build something awesome as that healthy, spiritually and emotionally and physically healthy son and daughter of God. Well, likewise, our true Father is saying, stop being addicted to being a child. Stop being just a flock, just following wherever you go. With the advent of true parents, with the concept of a family, now you have to be leaders of your own family. And each family become that living, beautiful testament of God and true parents. And that's how we change the world. Not that the whole world is just following mindlessly just one shepherd, but this one shepherd comes to form a beautiful family. And, the process is not going to be easy. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be messy. It's going to be difficult. But when we can create something beautiful, at the end of the day, all of those things are worthwhile, and all the lessons that we learn along the way will make us better people, better men and women of God. So I want to share with you this really beautiful quote that Father gave to us. This is from a speech that True Father gave on November 16, 1985. Father says, "As far as I know, God is not sectarian. He is not restricted by minor details of doctrine. We should quickly liberate ourselves from theological conflict, which results from blind attachment to doctrine and rituals, and instead focus on living relationships with God." Again, the most beautiful thing here is focused on a living relationship with God. We have to be a living testament of God and true parents. My father continues, "In my view, we urgently need to purify the religious atmosphere into one in which believers can have living faith. Faith must be alive, and every soul can communicate with God." Again, emphasizing a divine relationship that we are supposed to partake with God, our Heavenly Father. And again, using words, living faith, a living relationship. It has to be something that we feel, something that we breathe, something that we exercise each and every day of our lives. And so sometimes, just like an angry teenager, when we look at our religious community, some of us are angry. Some of us are rebellious. Some of us are frustrated because we have a whole litany of so many restrictions. But nobody really saying, but instead of focusing on all the things that you cannot or should not do, think about this meaningful responsibility that you can own in terms of your 5% responsibility and do incredible things. I've often kind of jokingly said to myself, and I've said to God, I said, "God, if you gave us the 10 Commandments and told us all the things that we could do, the history of religion might be different." Instead of a commandment on all the things we should not do. Imagine if those 10 commandments were commandments of empowerment, of all the things that we can do, these meaningful relationships that God wants us to partake with the authority to carry it out. And I think when I look at some of the people, that I have come to know that are incredibly frustrated, angry, or rebellious in our movement, well, they are, showing signs of what the adolescents or the teenagers are showing signs of. They feel like there's all these restrictions, all the things they cannot do with no meaningful outlet, no meaningful responsibility. And not just being given a responsibility, but saying, look, this is your 5%. You have absolute authority because we have trained you well, So we give you that authority to exercise in order to fulfill the meaningful responsibility of living an incredible life with God. Many times in a religious life, that part is missing. We're very good at giving responsibilities to people. You have to be responsible for your spouse, responsible for your children, responsible for the world. But many times we are not given the authority to carry that out, because the church perennially sees us as children. And as somebody who has been called true children my whole life, this is the biggest problem with the true family. It doesn't matter how old I am. I'm almost 50 years old, and people still call me children. People still treat me like a child. And, and you wonder why some of the things take place in true family. So in order to move forward, really the time of true parents is when the true parents come to complete the picture of a shepherd and a flock to that of a family, that of true parents, and millions of tribal messiahs all around the world. Millions of tribal messiahs exercising their authority in a meaningful responsibility by really understanding what it means to have this thing, 5% responsibility, to have free will, to have a free choice. How do we carry this out in a meaningful way that will better the lives of our children, and so on and so forth? So I feel that during this time, it's really, many people have said, this is the situation in our church. So many things are going on, and it's so difficult, and we don't know what to do. Well, God is asking you, be responsible for your 5%. Instead of always looking for answers, be the answer you want to see. There is no reason why you cannot change the world, why we cannot change the world, and not have to wait for the church to do it for us, or to wait for true parents to do it for us, or wait for God to do it for us. It's our job to leave the world better than we found it. And so our job really, is to really help the future generations understand what an incredible time we have witnessed in living and working and having dined and celebrated with the Messiah, the second coming, and our true parents. This is absolutely incredible. So all the things that our true Father has touched is an incredible gift for the sake of the future that is in our care, in our community's hands, and in our care. So it's our job to pass on all the assets that our true parents have prepared for us on to the second generation. So recently I heard that the plans are to sell the Berrytown College. And, my heart just dropped, because Berrytown College sits on UTS. And Father purchased the property many, many years ago, a couple decades ago, really envisioning that to be the birthplace of future missionaries, future leaders, and future ministers of our movement to come out of. And if we don't have something like that, that really prepares people for ministerial work, then where are we going to get, future pastors that are effective, that understand the relevance of how to really convey the message to the modern world? And on top of that, without a beautiful property like UTS or Berrytown College, where are the young people of our movement going to congregate? Where are we going to have our next BCSF? There is no more place where the young people can get together. And so if you take away this last bastion of an incredible thing that the young people can partake of, how will the youth, second gen and the new members, experience the living faith in their life so that they can experience a life that resonates with God's love? They need to feel that the community loves them. They need to feel that the community invests in them and believes in them and is preparing them for meaningful responsibility with authority to be able to carry out their responsibility. And if they don't get that sense, what is the future of our movement? Or what is the future of many, many different churches all around the world? So I really hope that in light of the recent webinar that we had, we can really kind of think about and pray about what it means, or what this 5% responsibility really means, and really kind of give ourselves a time to reassess our relationship with the church or in our religious life, and really ask us the difficult questions. Are we just simply addicted to this picture of the shepherd and the flock? The shepherd, the leader, the followers, follow and obey? Or do we really understand this picture that our true parents brings, which is a man and a woman, a beautiful parent, basically encouraging their children to grow up? Do not stay in kindergarten for the rest of your life. Do not have God push our prams along for the rest of our lives, being fed and being changed and being taken care of. But our true parents are saying, go, be your own tribal messiahs. Do your own home church. Think about what an incredible work of art you can unfold when you just tap in to your divinity and really resonate with God's love. That's a beautiful thing. So brothers and sisters, going forward, let us really remember, what it means to be somebody who is resonating in God's love, somebody that is living their faith, or really kind of living in the enthralled relationship with God. And, I believe that unlike kind of like the Christian understanding of a shepherd and a flock where, we're just all we're thinking about is repentance, and all we're thinking about is our own salvation, and about the need to kind of, be a good, obedient child, to this new picture of true parents bringing this message of tribal messiahship, of home church, where they're asking us to be inspired, be an inspired individual, be empowered, utilize, own your 5% responsibility to get the job done. And instead of just thinking about our own individual salvation, think about the salvation of the world. Because in the words of Reverend Sun Myung Moon, Father says religions are there to help the people along towards world peace. The religions are there to help us make sure that we don't kill each other in the process, and actually, successfully implement this thing called one family under God in our lifetime. So it's really an incredible gift that God sent us, our true parents. It's a really incredible invitation that God is really asking us, own up to it, come up to the plate, be your own tribal messiahs, And instead of just waiting for God and religion to push you along, be your own person. Stand on your own 2 feet and start walking. And start doing the thing that we as responsible sons and daughters should do. And so if we understand that, then the world that we live in, all the things that our true Father left us in our care, we have to take care of it. So if it's within our lifetime or within our care that all these valuable assets of the church are sold and auctioned off as if it's in a fire sale, what are we going to do when true Father asks, why did you sell the birthplace of the future leadership of our movement? What are we going to say? What are you going to say? So if you feel as urgently as I do, please give the appropriate leadership your feedback and fight to preserve the precious assets of our church for that future generation so that we can invest in our future by investing in our children, and help them become great young adults and help them to do incredible things that every one of them was born to do. So with your help, with God's help, with true parents' help, there is nothing that we cannot do together. So please think about this and pray about this, and really hoping that our lives and that your lives can be filled with meaningful responsibility and authority in order for us to accomplish the job that needs to be done. We wish you a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you and God bless.
I'm taking the other way. It is a strange desire. I wouldn't choose it any other day. But now I can't deny this crazy feeling over me. There's no other way to set me free than to be naked and homeless and hungry. Came to the other end. I took what there is to take, and I thought it was heaven sent each time I had my breaks. But this crazy feeling over me said, taking now is stealing. See, from the naked and homeless and hungry. Not praying for you to come down, but every season as it's turning now, it's turning around, and the first ones will be the last. In comes the crippled and the outcast, and our future will be their ground. Our silence will be their sound. Our doings will be their crown, one blood-stained crown. So try at the other end, walk down the other way. We don't know how, we don't know when, but we'll be forced to anyway. 'Cause when the truth comes down and the time is up, when the rock once rolls and cannot stop, when the lowest of man sits on the top, you may know what it's like to be me, just as naked and homeless and hungry. And I am not praying for you to come down, but every season as it's turning now, it's turning around. And the first ones will be the last. Oh, and in comes the crippled and the outcast. And our future will be their ground. Our silence will be their sound. Our doings will be their crown. One blood-stained crown. I'm taking the other way. It is a strange desire. Wouldn't choose it any other day. But now I can't deny this crazy feeling over me. There's no other way to set me free than to be naked and homeless and hungry.
If you have any questions and comments, please leave them below the video or go to injinmoon.com and use the contact form. And for those of you joining us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our email list. And if you would like to contribute to the work here at I Home Church, please click on the donate button. Take care. Thank you.